Sahana vavatu, Sahanau bhunaktu, Sahaviryam karavavahai, Tejasvinavadhitamastu, Ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Okay, so we spoke about the reason why we experience this sense of not knowing. And the simple answer is because that's how the setup is. And it's not trying to give you a hard time. It's not intending to give you a good time either. It's just that due to that power, right, it ends up hiding your nature. And so we naturally will not question that, and we will say, well, this is as good as I am, and therefore I have to now do things in this world to benefit the society, to benefit my family, to benefit people. And every time, even with good intentions, we go out and we create these unseen adrishtas, and we have to then, we fill up our causal body. And end of the day, when end of our life, we drop this body because it's no longer capable of living or doing, functional things, then it comes to an end. But owing to the causal body being filled up by the previous life's unseen results, now the causal body has more to give you, because you can't exhaust it all. Okay, you can't exhaust all of your unseen results. The life is just too short. Because and also depends if a person, for example, stays home and they just kind of not do anything, right? Well, they're just postponing all of that unseen, because the only way the unseen can come out is by participation in the world. There's no other way. This is why we can have children who are young, and they will just get into these strange situations constantly. They will get hurt, they will get into a fight, they will fall, they will trip over, and just keeps happening on and on and on. And sometimes you wake up, one thing, you fall, and then it leads to another thing. It's like a whole day is filled with these booze. I remember in my young years, it's like, I can't help it, and you just have to live through. Remember that when you were younger? Like the whole day is like, what's going on? How is this related from what happened 5 hours ago? So that's prarabdha, because your prarabdha starts to fully rise in those young years. And that's why young children have so much activity and so much unexpected things in their life. But then as you grow up, a lot of your prarabdha, the most intense things, have already exhausted. That's why we calm down, which is why we say that your life really, according to science, your happiness really starts to rise at 40 plus. Even at 30, you're sort of still kind of coming out of that whole 20s age. And 40 plus, you're relatively stable and more calm with things. And so your prarabdha is not so intense anymore. I think what you're asking is, what's the meaning of having to remove our ignorance? What's the meaning of all this? What's the meaning of why is the universe here? Because I think it's kind of connected. What's the meaning of the universe? Simon's shaking his head no. Would you like to refer?
No, sorry.
Okay, okay. I'm still kind of 80% clear. 20% I'm unclear what you're saying.
Like the why, maybe why? Why is it like things are?
Yeah.
Why?
For the why question,
What is
actually,
the
I think.
purpose of it for the whole?
Yeah, so there's several answers to this. The first answer is it's a setup. And if something's a setup and it's always been like that, then the question of why is no longer valid. Because the question why only comes if it began in time. It began for the first time. And so someone thought it through. I'm going to create all of this because there was no a person with an intention. Therefore, you cannot ask a why, because there was no individual being and said, I'm going to create because, and then later on you say, why? And let me just hear you answer. Why? There is no because. The simple answer is that Creation is like this. It just happens. It's just how it is. It's the setup. And in that setup, we happen to have the Jagat and the Jivas. That's how it is. The second answer, so the answer one is that's how it is. That's the setup. The second answer is that because that's the setup, and you have this Jiva continuously revolving in the circle, the Jiva will always create and contribute to the total. So in that sense, the reason why we have all of this as it is because of the collective total that has contributed to what it is and how it is right now. For example, you can, like a president, whoever's the new president of USA now, and who will be in, next 4 years. So that's going to significantly impact the world, right? Because people will look up to that person and go, well, she acts like this, therefore it's okay for us to act like this. And so people will start to kind of normalize, some kind of potentially unethical things in their life. And that's going to spread through the generations in hundreds, 1,000 years from now. So now when the person from 1,000 years asks why, then the answer is always going to be because of 1,000 years before. And if we ask why now, it's because of 1,000 years. So endlessly, beginninglessly, that way, is why this. Therefore, the answer is because this is the setup. There cannot be any other way. Example, if the sun is rising in the, according to our standpoint, from the east to the west, then I can equally now ask, why is it not rising from north to south? Okay, so therefore the why will always have an unsatisfactory answer, and the only possible answer that we can give is this is how things are. Yeah, it is a fair system. So that's why we say it's not a chaotic world. There is a system that allows you to confidently do one thing. So if I want to start a business, I know exactly what kind of causes I need to apply today to get those effects in the future. So there's a connection. You don't just randomly start to pick flowers from the field in order to make money, right? And so therefore there's always a cause-effect relationship. And in that sense, that's called dharma. And we all know instinctively this relationship. Example, if I want to learn, you instinctively know I need to then come, sit, and listen and to try to understand. You don't go climbing up trees in order to learn Vedanta. So this is a fair system that we can all rely upon, that we can all trust. Otherwise, if we didn't trust this system, then you would not be, you will be afraid to wake up in the morning because you will not know whether gravity is still going to hold you down. But we can totally depend upon gravity because we trust, and we have no choice to trust Ishvara in a form of gravity. So we're all forced to trust. So you might as well start to trust Ishvara because Ishvara was always taking care of you. Now, the more I have resistance towards Ishvara, that means the world and laws, the more I deny myself from aligning to Ishvara and coming closer to Ishvara. Therefore, really, end of the day, you have no choice but to come closer and closer and closer to Ishvara because you are not outside of Ishvara. Ishvara's setup this is right now. And therefore, the more I try to establish myself in my own personal bubbles, the farther I am from Ishvara, the more I suffer. And then to negate that suffering, one goes into the world and finds unconnecting things to help themselves out. When all one is really seeking is to come back to this moment where Ishvara dwells. Having gone through these three bodies, when I say having removed, what I mean is having gone, you have to get educated. When you get educated, you remove. Until, I get educated and my pen is here, I have to first get, hey, Andre, your pen's here. Now I have removed this doubt. Where's the pen? Where's the pen? Where's the pen? So I automatically stop being an actor. Stop being a kind of a seeker. The more I move, the more adrishta palams I create, the more karmas I create, the more karmas, sometimes I will, go to a different country, I find that no more karmas. That also stops. Therefore, the person now can say, how do I now wish to give to the world? Now that I found what I was seeking, how do I wish to give to the world? And this is up to you. There's no rules to it. So now, having been given these three bodies are given to everyone, and come to see what their nature is, who then gets moksha? Who gets moksha? Yeah, so the question is now, I thought myself to be as good as these three bodies. That means I was a jiva. So now, who gets moksha?
Subtle body.
Okay. It's all right. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. So I, who took myself as the three bodies, get moksha. That means I now recognize that this instrument that I was wearing is mithya. It resolves into me. Before, I was one of the many. I was who I am always. Now the ignorance is removed because there was this layer upon me who I looked and said, this is who I am. Now I look at the very same body that I'm still wearing now, and I understand cognitively its ontological status. It's resolvable like anything else. Everything about you resolves into awareness. Your ego resolves into awareness. Your legs, your eyes, your arms, your memories, everything resolves into awareness, which is known to you as choiceless awarefulness. You're choicelessly aware. Got no choice but to be aware.
Choicelessly and continuously.
Huh?
Choicelessly and continuously.
Choiceless continues because it is you. You only have a choice over something that is not you. For example, this is, not I, so I have a choice to go like this or go like that. But I have no choice to shut down my awareness. Choiceless, because I am that. I can tell you now, please stop being aware. Use free will, which belongs to the mind. Use free will to stop being aware. Choiceless, no choice. That's because that is your truth. Everything else, you got choice. You can choose to feel ecstatic right now, choose to feel normal, but no choice when it comes to just
Such a funny thing.
this.
Such a funny thing. You say, who gets I? Who gets moksha? I. But there's only I. So it's such a crazy kind of.
Yeah, it's kind of you can think of it different ways.
Before we realize that I is, can we say, is jiva?
Yes, yeah, it's you. So in other words, who gets moksha? So before, right, look at this. Before moksha, it's like this. After moksha, it's like this. But what's the difference? Someone answer, please.
We know that is not the real nature. That is imposed on that.
Difference is the upadhi.
Ah, excellent. Nothing changes. Before moksha, chopping wood. After moksha, still chopping wood. I don't leave anyone. Still chopping wood. Just the upadhi is known to be an upadhi. It does not belong to me. Life continues for a short while, a little while longer. That's why it's not a big deal. It's very kind of a humble, down-to-earth thing. Like, wow, thank you, God. Ishwara's grace. Verse 15. Okay, this is an interesting model. Atma seems conditioned by koshas. Okay. Pancha kosha adi yogena tat maya iva stitaha. Shuddha atma nila vastra adi yogena spahatikaha yatha. Atma Bodha is full of prakriyas. Every Upanishadic prakriya is in Atma Bodha. So one after another. Okay, so it's talking about these koshas, and I'm not going to define what kosha. Actually, kosha is like a cover. or it as though, so kosha, as though covers nature of Atma. What does it as though cover? So like this. Okay, so kosha, as though covers Atma. Okay? Why do I say as though? Something as though covers you. For example, your body is, you can say, is a kosha. And I say your body as though covers you, awareness. Why do I say as though? What do I mean by that?
Actually, it does not.
It actually does not. Now, what would make you understand that it actually does not? The pramana. Okay? So this means that it only becomes, your body only becomes a kosha when you take it to be real, when it's satyam for you. The moment you recognize it's mithya, which we've already performed the analysis, it's no longer a kosha. It is now from kosha into a functional, what should we say, a functional tool, right? Functional tool. Your body is a functional tool to participate in this world. That means it's not a problem. Before knowledge, it covered me, it was a problem. After knowledge, it's not a problem. Now it becomes a blessing, a gift. Now, it uses these three bodies, which we've talked about, which are the gross body, stula sharira, sukshma sharira, the subtle body, and karana sharira, the causal body, and it wants to make it more specific. Okay? And it's going to help us get more kind of very sure around what am I not. Okay, so we've got Anamaya. Is that one A, one N? Yeah, that's two, double N. Anamaya. Anamaya. So I'm just going to say Anamaya. So Anamaya is another name for your physical body. Anamaya, Ana means food. So what is your physical body made of? Yeah, Anna, food. What kind of food? Whatever your culture feeds you, right? So it's like you have a carrot or you have spinach, and you say this is not me. And then we eat the spinach, and now it becomes part of this body, and we're protecting this body. No, don't hit me. Don't hit the spinach. Don't hit the carrots. And so it becomes an identity. And our whole life becomes about sort of making it bigger. Going to the gym. Beauty. Ah. How big is that industry? Just in India. White powders. Tanning powders in the West. Tanning notions. It's so funny, right? Makeup. And anyone gets sick, you have to bear that. And I am sick now. Oh, I'm going through a hard. I've got pain. I am deteriorating. I'm getting older. Oh, I'm so young. And so we take pride on that because I'm so young. And then old age comes. Oh, I used to be so strong. Now I'm so weak. So this means there's a constant identification with the physical body, all of the features attached to it, and then we have to wear it and polish it up, and it becomes a lot of investment just in the physical body. And then beauty, big thing, and then we look at skin deep of another human being, and we go. And then there's a physiology that gets activated inside, which is corresponding to what I value in another person, if they have certain kind of hair and eyes and features, then depending on what meaning has for me, what is attraction for me, then it's going to incite a certain kind of physiology. And then, go, hello. And then the whole thing starts. Body, 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 constant. Now the next kosha is pranamaya. Prana, maya. So prana, maya. Okay. So pranamaya is as I said, it is the intelligence in your body. So your physical body has intelligence that facilitates digestion, circulation, inhalation, exhalation, and it is done without your intervention. You can, relax and do your thing. So much energy in the body is now going on. Temperature, this is prana. And how does this now manifest in a form of identification? Well, we end up wanting to,
I can't breathe.
I can't breathe, yeah. How about, I feel like I feel warm all the time, or physiology, studying physiology, having a lot of interest around that, pranayama, constant, wanting to, all these energy practices, qigong, tai chi chuan, and the whole life becomes about, right? I do that too, but whole life gets dedicated just to one practice. I studied from one man who does brilliant Tai Chi, whole life into that. And you want to just keep on increasing that energy, that Dantian right here, increase the center. Pilates, do Pilates, increase the center, increase that energy, that core. That means now, where's my eye? Pranamaya. Pranamaya. That means energy, all about, martial arts, asanas. I mean, the word yoga is usually associated with asanas, even though it's so much more than that. So this means there's a strong, especially as a young person, that's where, right? Most of the time, I is in the energy for a young person. They want to feel powerful. And then manomaya. Manomaya. So it's more like manas. So manomaya. Anamaya. So manomaya is the same as your manas, which is where you identify with all about changing your states, and feeling good. Big thing in the spiritual world where you want the guru to kind of make you feel good, and you want to feel limitless, and you want to get back that experience again and again. And so life becomes a chase for feelings. And people love these things. Very, very, very common to want to feel good all the time for as long as possible, as quickly as possible. And so relationships can sometimes be a reflection of that, where the person wants to jump from one to the other because they want that initial chemical high, which is manomaya basically. And therefore we say things like, feel good all the time. I know one guru, he's not a guru, that's not a right name, a personal development speaker, which is very popular in the West. And he's very, into kind of changing your state. So yeah, this one man is just all about changing state, and people love him. He's very popular because there's nothing more than just hugging everyone and, let's dance, like Hillsong, that thing. It just gets you very excited. Some institutions will get you to dance very much, and you will absolutely feel addicted to that. And they will get you there going again and again and again, because now you're identified with manomaya kosha. I don't like intellect. I don't like thinking. Why? What do you like? I like feeling.
So
Manom.
knowledge is not related to manomaya. Knowledge.
Vijnana, my next one. Yeah.
This is only about emotions.
Emotions, feelings.
Good and bad.
I mean, yeah, and all the varieties in between. Yeah. For the most part, yeah. I mean, it's not like, it's like specifically somewhere in our brain. This is just one mind. We just kind of put it into a category.
Yes.
Yeah. And then Vijnanamaya. Vijnana Maya. Vijnana. So basically Vijnana is, that's the jnanam, so intellect. So this is your cognitive capacity to think, to assess, to work things out, and it becomes a cover when your life becomes all about decision making. I'm a decision maker. I am a responsible human being. I am a thinker. No, I am a thinker. Common thing. I am a thinker. I am a discerning thinker. I'm a Vedantin. No. I am a philosopher. I make decisions and I know what is to be done, and I am a discerning person. Even discernment. Isn't it funny? Even discernment, the very thing that Krishna praises, becomes an identification. I am a discerning person and I always make decisions. You see how tricky it can become. So this means that, yes, sometimes I can make a decision, but I don't have to always be this man, this woman who makes a decision. I don't have to always kind of, be forced and I have to make a decision. No, I have to be always right. That is Vijnana Maya Kosha. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with, of course, the Manushya. We're a Manushya, we're a thinking being. That we're not negating that. But even a thinking can become a form of a bondage. How so? In times when, maybe if I remember a story, the person wants to appear like they always are certain. Like I'm always certain. Suppose, there's a leader and you ask me a question. I always pretend like I know, but inside I actually don't know. So this means I'm identified with this decision maker who always has to come out. That means if I don't know, hey, I don't know. That means I've now relinquished this identification with this person, this function that has to be always right. Knowing things, Vijnana Maya. So right now in Vedanta, which kosha is most likely being used? Yeah, Vijnana Maya. But also, actually it's all of them. So maybe it's a tough question to answer which one is most being used. I don't know what you're experiencing. But the point is they're all functions and we need them. Now, to know things, why do you want to know things? Why do you want to be a decision maker? Why do you want to make a decision? To suffer? Never. It's always to have a positive result. And therefore, Anandamaya Kosha, Anandamaya. Anandamaya means happiness. So this means that experiential happiness, experiential bliss. So any kind of experience, suppose I decide to meditate and to have samadhi. I did that specifically to enjoy. So this means, where is my reward? My reward is Anandamaya Kosha. Samadhi is just a place where there's absence of thoughts. And so there's no kind of, you're not ruminating over memories of what is to be done. You're just free of thoughts. And it's a very kind of a nice, peaceful place to be in. Yeah, so you're not being intruded by thoughts. That silences down. So there's only me, the knower. The ahamkara is still there, right? In samadhi, the ego. But the ego is not entertaining any thoughts. Yeah. So anything that we...
How to differentiate between Anandamaya and Manomaya?
Yeah, Manomaya can be a suffering also. Anandamaya specifically means happiness.
Okay.
Yeah. So this is, all sorts of things. Yeah. More like experience. This will be happiness. This is like just basically any kind of experience mixed in. So, and what happens here is that we become addicted to this. And this is where the most of the spirituality stops. Where you now want to kind of, light it up. You want to bring experiences in through practices. And practices are meant to do this. And so everything becomes in the name of Anandamaya Kosha, experiential happiness. And you have some institutions, who kind of make you happy and make you dance. And this is all just to trigger that Anandamaya Kosha. In a sense, the whole world is only ever chasing for Anandamaya Kosha. It's the biggest addiction there is. And what is this Anandamaya Kosha? It happens when the seeker and the sought come together. That means if I want a person, why is relationship such a big thing in this world? Because there's a seeker and there is a sought. Now, when the seeker is together with the sought, what happens to the seeker? Temporarily resolves. And now, what is attached to the seeker? I want, I need, I'm not good enough, I'm like this, I'm like that, and nobody likes this. So this means when I come together, when I attach myself to an object, then the seeker and all of the voices together with that seeker, they lower themselves. This is why my mom and dad are so happy together. They don't have this teaching in their life, but they're so happy. Why? Because they're always in union. The moment they're away, it's a different person. So this means it can become a situation where you trick yourself. Oh, I'm resolved all my stuff. I'm very happy. I'm a happy person. The real happiness is being alone and being content. That's why sometimes aloneness is such a big thing, to kind of withdraw and recognize your own place in this world. And this is a missed opportunity for those who are constantly in the world, attaching society, friends, calls, internet, entertainment, the whole entertainment industry, trillions of dollars, Anandamaya Kosha. Porn, top 10 websites, about 5 of them are porn. Anandamaya Kosha. The huge, huge drive in this world. Therefore, the person wants to get that again because it's so pleasing to be without the seeker. It becomes so addictive that I want it again and again and again. Nobody kisses once. Nobody has nice food once. Nobody plays with fancy toys and habits once. Again and again, because it's so pleasing to resolve my seeker and be without that I need, I want, It's so nice to be without that. And that resolution gives you a glimpse of fullness, because in that moment of happiness, you understand there is no wanter and wanted. It gives you a taste of Brahman's fullness, because there's no wanter anymore. So we are constantly getting tastes, but we're not analyzing it. We're not looking deeper. And we're just let me just go for it again. Rather, Vedanta says, Anandamaya Kosha itself, analyze it. When you are together and you're happy, why are you happy? Because the seeker is resolved. That happiness is a natural state of who you are. Just a tiny glimpse of your Ananda. That's why I say Satchit Ananda. That happiness is just tiny glimpse of Brahman's totality. Therefore, even Anandamaya Kosha can become a wonderful teaching tool. How so? By recognizing that everyone, whatever they believe, what do they want? Seeker sought resolution, non-duality. That's what seeker sought resolution means, non-duality. So even Advaitins who deny non-duality, what do they want? Non-duality. That's why we keep saying Advaita Vedanta is not a belief. It is talking about something that everyone already wants, something that's undeniable. Now, since everyone wants non-duality, the truth is right in the open for us to understand the nature, that which you want the most has to be you. Because everyone wants non-duality. We never come closer towards that which is not I. We always come closer towards what is I. And since everyone wants again and again non-duality, seeker sought resolution, I am, what is my nature? Who am I really? A non-dual awareness. It is out in the open, and yet we miss it because we don't have the pramana.
So, in which category can we put deep sleep? Is it
Sure.
the Anandamaya Kosha or beyond that?
Sure. So Anandamaya Kosha is active in deep sleep. It is that which reflects your Brahman's fullness. So whatever that bliss that is experienced, that is because of Anandamaya Kosha. It's you could say like a mirror, reflecting a glimpse of who you are. Yeah. So Anandamaya Kosha, you could say, is inside the causal body. Seeker is so me, the wanter, the one who wants. Like take a child. whoever's had children before or played with children, there's this, insistent, I want. The moment you give a toy, what happens? Instantly, you will know, right, Eli? Instantly, the complaining stops. That means the child has now forgotten about who I am not. And in other words, what was I carrying? I was carrying all of the notions. I desire. So desires become painful. So all of those desires temporarily subside. The moment that desire arises, now the only way for me to come back to myself is to still that desire, to get rid of that desire. I need to still the mind to see the clear reflection of the sun. As long as there's ripples, I can't see the sun. And that's painful. So we try to do anything to settle that mind. And every single time there's a secret solid resolution, you still the bucket of water. It's no longer shaky, but it doesn't last. Yeah, it's temporary. And that, the sun, the nature of my fullness, wow, all gone. Next experience, wow, gone. That's what we do our whole lives, chasing fullness.
So how to transcend that Anandamaya?
Okay, so this is going to come up. Yeah, and another interesting point is that, see, anything you ever do is for the sake of fullness. Any kind of happiness you've ever experienced was Anandamaya Kosha. Even knowing that all that is here is Ishvara is Anandamaya Kosha. That happiness, that joy, that I am surrounded, I'm swimming in God right now, that is Anandamaya Kosha. The only difference is that kind of happiness is not binding, because that happiness is in reference to everything. Whereas if I'm just merged with my favorite toy, that kind of happiness has a dependence. It's mithya. But if your happiness is arising out of understanding that this whole thing resolves into satyam, even though you're still getting Anandamaya Kosha, you're not bound, because you're seeing through all things. You're understanding the whole thing. So it's a non-binding. The only time it's non-binding is when you understand the whole. Even then, it's Anandamaya Kosha.
No object is required for Ananda.
No object is required anymore, because you recognize the substance that makes up all things. But before, where was I looking for the substance? In the object. That was my satyam. That's not my satyam, this is my satyam. Now, it's all mithya resolving into satyam. In other words, the seeker, the substance of the seeker is awareness, and the wanted, the substance of the wanted is awareness. So what am I really chasing? Me. Before, I was one thing, this was another thing. Now, there's no real difference between us. This is Jnani's Ananda. Ajnani's Ananda, ignorant person, I always have to be next to something. Jnani's Ananda. There's no real difference between you and I. I'm only ever seeking God, which is everywhere. Therefore, this whole need to go out and look and seek, it just collapses. It doesn't still deny you from appreciating life, but this whole insistent need to be someone, to be out there, to be seen, all of this just dissolves. That's Jnani's Ananda. It's a very different kind of Ananda than big smiley face. It's inside.
Bhagavad Gita, there is a Atmane Atmane Matushta. The Atma is happy with its own, not other. Objectification is not. Atmane Atmane Matushta.
So Ananda Swarupa. Your nature is Ananda Swarupa. And that nature is your cognitive understanding. I don't have to experience it. I know it. Right now, I may not be feeling so well. It doesn't matter. That's only to the koshas. The koshas are designed to give you a hard time sometimes. They're designed to limit experience. They're designed to do that. They can't give you limitlessness. So one has to bear life for a little while longer. You just can't penetrate through a small mind. But I know while carrying this instrument, I am Ananda Swarupa. My nature is infinite, limitless, without a second. And that carries you forward. No matter what, feeling like this, feeling like that, my nature is, my Swarupa is Ananda. Anantam Ananda. Shivoham, Shivoham. Therefore, the jnani's happiness comes out of recognition that all that is here is one. And that gives you equilibrium, it gives you composure, and that gives you a lot more objectivity towards all things. I can still interact with you, but there's no seeking, I need this, I need you for my happiness. That collapses. And that may take some time. It's not an overnight process. That's why we have nididhyasanam, constant listening and reflection. Slowly, slowly, the relationship towards things changes. So, just to make this clear, are these 5 koshas a problem in any way? No, they're not. They're not. See, there's no need to get rid of anything here. Vedanta is about putting things in the right place. It was never about elimination. Other schools, they try to eliminate the ego, eliminate your body, eliminate your energy, change your energy around. It's good as saying it, eliminate, it's good as saying it's change. Change is as good as saying eliminate. No need to touch it because this is Ishvara Srishti. It is operated by the laws, which I did not create. I leave it alone and do the best that I can in this world for a little while longer. Putting things in the right place, putting the Annamaya kosha in the right place, Pranamaya, okay, there's energy, Manomaya kosha, okay, this is the emotions right now, and it's very active. Vijnanamaya is overthinking things, okay, and there's happiness that also is meant to constantly produce, generate experience. So all experience is generated through 5 koshas. Whenever you say the word experience, it belongs where? 5 koshas every single time. I've experienced oneness. Where did that happen? In one of those koshas. I don't know which one. I experienced limitlessness, which is not possible because a limited mind cannot experience limitlessness. You got a taste of it, but you haven't experienced limitlessness. Even if a person has, ayahuasca or something, or LSD or some drugs, even then they usually say, I've experienced oneness. That's only a glimpse, a little dot of Brahman's Ananda.
So whatever we experience in these 5 koshas are paroksha jnana, correct?
What do you mean by that, paroksha jnana?
Paroksha, aporoksha, direct knowledge and indirect, you told yesterday.
No, I wouldn't use that. No, because that's got a different context. See, any experience is known to you right now. That was a different context. Paroksha jnana means, I use that example to demonstrate that Atma is never away from you. It's never paroksha. It is always aparoksha jnana. Yeah, it's always direct. So don't say that, Atma is away from me. No, it's direct. I just haven't recognized how it is right here, right now. That's why we use that. Are you okay for one more verse?
Yeah.
Deep breath. Okay, verse 16. Separating the self from these koshas. Let's see how to do this. Vapuhu tushadi bhihi koshaihi yuktam yuktya avaghatataha Atmanam antaram shuddham vivichyat tandulam yatha. So a very simple example, rice, right? It's covered by a shell, and it's a very delicate process to uncover it. So just like it's a delicate process, it's sort of a delicate process to separate the koshas from yourself. And the way to do this is we can do through Drikdrishya Viveka, which we've already done. So if we take, what we need to do here is make the koshas the seen and Atma the seer. So Drik, seer, and Drishya is seen. Okay. Now, in the stage of avidya, 5 koshas are, they're the seer. So we say, oh, you know, the world's out there. Me, I am seeing the world. But that I am is referring to the 5 koshas. So what are we doing here? We're including the 5 koshas to be the seen also. And Atma remains alone, the seer. So let's take, for example, the first one, Annamaya and Pranamaya. So there is a body which is changing, very different through the years. Even now, 900 million cells are dying, approximately. And you don't experience any of that. None of that is sort of, you know, you're not kind of lessening, you're not lesser. If I cut the arm, right, it's not like my I am is now lesser. If there's pain, you still know that you are, right? Your body is going through changes, a lot of changes. Your energy is going through an astronomical amount of changes. We can be hot one moment. You know that moment when you're like, someone says something embarrassing and you get embarrassed? There's suddenly heat in your body. I am before, I am after. So there's an invariable presence through and through, because in whose presence the changing conditions of this body is recognized. Oh, my back pain, you know. But all throughout, I am. Oh, my energy is low now. Oh, my energy is high. Let me get some coffee. Oh, I've got now high energy. All throughout that, there is an invariable presence, in whose presence these changing conditions of the prana and the body come to be constantly recognized for what they are, accurately. And then Manomaya. What does your mind do? Produces emotions. As I said with that lottery example, right? One moment, hey, you won $1 million. No, I was just kidding. Right? Like that. But all throughout, you are there. You're through and through that there's something that is, see, if you were the happiness, then when the happiness goes, then you would go. If you were the sadness, when the sadness goes, you would go. But no matter what arises, stays, and disappears, there's an unchanging presence through and through that all. Are you connecting to me so far?
Yes.
Good. And then Vijnanamaya. Same thing. Some days you and I are sharp. It's clicking. Other days during the seminar, it's going over our head. Sometimes, right? Or maybe, hopefully not, because that would be my fault too if I'm making things over our head. Okay? Other days, we're just kind of clicking and it's all working together. We're able to speak well. We're not making any stutterings or any kind of, pauses or whatever it is. It's very smooth. Smooth thinking, smooth, deeper thinking. Other days, it's a little bit more shallow. Throughout the day, you wake up in the morning and you have one kind of a thought, and then your thought of back home changes. So your whole thinking process is going through dozens and hundreds of changes throughout the day. What's 1 plus 1? Okay, how about 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. 64, 128, 256, 512, 1024, 2096, 4096, 2048, 8,192, 16,890, 192, something like that. 32,576, 64,000. So why am I showing this? Why am I showing this? So again, 2, 4, 6, 8. Actually, we did by 4. So 4, 8, 16, 32, 64, 128, 256, 512, 1024, 2048, 2048, 4096, 8192. What's happening right now, if you were following me along? Notice how you have taken an entirely different role. Knower, decision maker, thinker, like really focused. But now you say, hey, Andre, just relax, man. Stop showing off. And I sit down, which is exactly what I wanted you to say. So I can use that. And then I sit down. All throughout, I took different roles. I was, intellect. And now, okay, I'm sorry, let me just, become a little bit more humbled, okay? All throughout, I am, okay? There's an invariable presence throughout our laughter, which is Manomaya Kosha, by the way. So this is changing, but there is I am, I am, I am. That I am does not belong to the mind, it is Brahman. Right here, right now. And of course, now why did I show off? To suffer or to enjoy myself? To enjoy myself. In other words, I wanted a taste of Anandamaya Kosha. Don't lie, you also want the same taste, so we're on the same boat. In other words, now while I'm enjoying myself, how long did that last? Until the music starts. Anandamaya also changes, but while the music is there, now back into Manomaya Kosha, going through the agitation, I am throughout. Therefore, all of these are now, through this analysis, drishya, seen. And there is one invariable presence that is not subject to any of these 5 changes. And that is the drik, the final seer. And that is who you are. 2 more or 3 more minutes. I want to do another prakriya. Prakriya after prakriya. Wow, so many. Okay, so this is called Anvaya Vyatireka. Is a Sanskrit name. Anvaya Vyatireka. Vyatireka. So Anvaya just basically means that which is present or true. Or non-negatable. Non-negatable. That means when you remove one thing, it still remains. So for example, if I remove the pot, what remains? The clay. Therefore the clay would be Anvaya, yeah. And Vyatireka means negatable. That means you can negate it. Negatable. That means in one situation it's true, in another situation it's not true. Right now it's true, I break the pot is no longer true, therefore the pot is Vyatireka. Okay. So, knowing these 2 words, what about now in the waking state? In the waking state we have the Annamaya Kosha. So waking, we have Annamaya Kosha. Okay. Now we don't know whether Annamaya is Anvaya or Vyatireka, but we have to arrive to that. We have to see whether we can discard our physical body. So let's see if we can, who am I really using this method? So now in the waking there, but what about in dream? Do you have your physical body in dream from your standpoint? No. Because if something is really true, it should be there all the time. But since in my dream, my physical body is gone, from my standpoint, it cannot be me. Therefore, the physical body now becomes Vyatireka, but what is inside your dream? Manomaya and Vijnanamaya, because it's still fear, right? Fear and think. Manomaya and Vijnanamaya. Vijnanamaya. I think it's still throughout the dream also. I'm just going to leave the pranamaya out for now. I don't want confusion. Okay? So this means now Mano Vijnanamaya is Anvaya and Annamaya is established. But what about in sleep? Is there any emotions or thinking in sleep? Sleep. What happened to now Vijnanamaya and Manomaya in sleep is Vyatireka. Because it's not there. But what is there in sleep? Anandamaya. Anandamaya. Therefore Anandamaya becomes the one that remains the most prominent throughout. It becomes, this is how the rishis have used logic to arrive. Which kosha is most supreme? Pure logic. So this means which one is most available throughout your experience? Anandamaya kosha, which is why so in other words, that which is closest to me, I'm trying to chase. There's one more underneath, of course, Anandamaya, which is you, Atma. But since we don't have access to Atma, what's the closest to Atma? Anandamaya kosha, which is why it's most prevalent. So this shows you that all these koshas are ultimately vyatireka. But if you're smart, you say, all? You haven't negated Anandamaya kosha, Andre. How do we show that Anandamaya kosha is also vyatireka? Well, when you wake up, you can cover your happiness. You can be unhappy. Therefore, Anandamaya kosha also is vyatireka. Because if it was uncoverable, then no matter what you say, I would be constantly happy. But you can say one little bad news to me and my Anandamaya kosha is gone. Therefore, all koshas become vyatireka. But what is true in all three states? I am. Now, how do you prove that I am available in deep sleep? How do I prove this? Easy. Who looks forward, huh?
Next day morning we will know. We have slept.
Yeah, and why do you go to sleep? Do you go to sleep to go out of existence? Otherwise, we would all be fearful. We go to sleep gladly. Why? Because these koshas are bugging me. And I want to get rid of them. That's why deep sleep is so pleasant. Just the fact that you look forward to deep sleep implies I, which is not any of these koshas, will very much be there. Therefore, the final anvaya is Atma awareness. That which is I am in all three. Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnam Eva Avashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.